Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Wright. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We also warmly welcome the members of the 2-4 RAR Association who are joining us this evening. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors as well as students on behalf of the following schools: St Michael's College, Caboolture, and Noosaville State School, both from Queensland. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you, boys and girls. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant Harold Leslie Parry. Harold Parry, who went by his middle name Leslie, was born in 1889, the fourth son of Henry and Minnie Parry of Western Australia. Harold was the grandson of the late Henry Parry, Bishop of Perth, and Sir Malcolm Fraser, the former Colonial Secretary of Western Australia. Little is known of his early life, but sources suggest that he trained as an optometrist and followed agricultural pursuits before going on to work in the accounts branch of the Railway Department at Midland Junction. Parry enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force shortly after the outbreak of war in 1914. He was posted to the 11th Battalion as a private and left for active service overseas with the 1st Contingent. The battalion spent some time in Egypt training before embarking for their first major operation. During this time, Parry was promoted to sergeant and given charge of No. 3 Platoon. The 11th Battalion landed at Anzac Cove in the early hours of the 25th of April 1915. The men rowed ashore under heavy fire before storming the cliffs. Very quickly, the battalion became disorganised, and over the next few days, small parties of men dug trenches under heavy fire to establish a line of defence. During this time, Sergeant Parry performed so admirably that 3 days after the landing, he was commissioned Second Lieutenant. On the 28th of June 1915, the 11th Battalion supported a small operation of the 9th Battalion designed to prevent the Turks from sending reinforcements to the south. The 11th Battalion was charged with firing on the Turkish trenches from their own position. In order to get a better line of sight to the enemy position, a significant portion of the 11th advanced a small way from their support trench to fire, leaving them out in the open. The Turks opened fire on them with shrapnel, causing a number of casualties. 3 officers and 18 other ranks of the 11th Battalion were killed in action that day, and more than 40 were wounded. One of those killed was Second Lieutenant Leslie Parry. Little is known of the exact manner of his death, but it was most likely to have occurred during the Turkish shelling. Today, Leslie Parry is buried in Shell Green Cemetery on the Gallipoli Peninsula. He was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Second Lieutenant Harold Leslie Parry, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.